Story number 1. The Non-Existent Bar. Chicago. The city's skyline pierced the night, a testament to human ambition and architectural prowess. Yet, beneath the shimmering lights and bustling streets, there existed an undercurrent of mystery and tales untold. It was in these shadows that urban legends thrived, whispered among locals in hushed tones over late-night coffees or hurried conversations between shifts. One such legend that had piqued my curiosity was about a place known only as the Non-Existent Bar. According to the stories, this bar would materialize out of the thickest of foggy nights, appearing in an alleyway that seemed to bend and twist, leading to nowhere familiar. Those who had supposedly ventured in never returned, or if they did, they were forever changed, haunted by memories that defied explanation. As a freelance journalist with a penchant for uncovering the obscure and the supernatural, I found myself irresistibly drawn to this enigma. My name is Alex Thompson, and for the past few years, I had been chasing shadows and unraveling the threads of Chicago's most perplexing mysteries. The Non-Existent Bar was the next challenge I was determined to conquer. It was a particularly foggy evening in late October when I decided to embark on this quest. The air was thick, almost tangible, as if the city itself was holding its breath. I equipped myself with my trusty camera, a notepad filled with questions, and an unwavering resolve to uncover the truth behind the whispers. Driving through the familiar streets of Chicago, the fog seemed to swallow the city whole. Streetlights became distant glows, and the usual cacophony of traffic was muted by the heavy mist. As I navigated through the labyrinthine alleyways, the sensation of being watched crept over me. Every turn I took seemed to loop back, the streets morphing into an endless maze. Just when doubt began to gnaw at my determination, a faint, flickering light appeared ahead. It was dim, almost ethereal, beckoning me forward. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement as I approached the source. There, nestled between two nondescript buildings, stood an old wooden sign that read simply, "The Non-Existent Bar." No ornate designs, no flashy lights, just the stark, unadorned words that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay beyond the door. As I pushed it open, a chill ran down my spine, and the world outside seemed to dissolve into the shadows of the bar's interior. The moment I stepped inside, I was enveloped by a heavy silence, broken only by the soft strains of jazz music emanating from an old, worn-out jukebox in the corner. The air was thick with the scent of aged wood and something indefinably old, like forgotten memories lingering in the space. The bar was dimly lit by vintage chandeliers, their light casting long, wavering shadows across the room. The decor was a mix of old-world charm and eerie neglect. Dusty bottles lined the shelves, and worn leather booths offered seating that seemed to have stories etched into their very fabric. Seated at the far end was a man behind the bar, his presence almost spectral. He wore a tailored suit, impeccably neat, yet his eyes held a distant, haunted look. He didn't acknowledge me immediately, continuing his task of polishing glasses with a methodical precision that suggested he had been doing so for decades, if not centuries. Curiosity gnawed at me as I approached the bar, the creaking floorboards under my feet echoing in the vastness of the room. I took a seat, trying to mask the unease that bubbled within me. The bartender finally looked up, his gaze meeting mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. Without a word, he placed a glass in front of me. The drink was a beautifully crafted cocktail, garnished with a slice of lemon and a sprig of mint. I hesitated, sensing that accepting it might bind me to this place in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. Before I could decide, he nodded slightly, an invitation I couldn't refuse. I lifted the glass, the cold surface sending a chill through my fingers, and took a tentative sip. The liquid was smooth, with a hint of bitterness that lingered on my palate, unlike any cocktail I had ever tasted. As I drank, the atmosphere seemed to shift. The music grew louder, the shadows danced more wildly, and the air thickened with an almost tangible presence. I glanced around, noticing that the other patrons were entirely still, their eyes vacant and their expressions blank. It was as if they were trapped in an eternal moment, unable to break free from the confines of this haunted establishment. I attempted to strike up a conversation, asking the bartender about the bar's peculiar nature, but he remained silent, his eyes never leaving mine. Instead, he began to prepare another drink with a speed and precision that defied reality, the glass moving from his hands before mine could even anticipate its arrival. As the night wore on, the bar seemed to become a world unto itself, detached from time and space. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the walls themselves were closing in with each passing moment. The once inviting ambience now felt oppressive, each shadow a potential threat lurking in the darkness. Hours passed, or was it days? Time had lost all meaning within the non-existent bar. The clock on the wall stood still, its hands frozen at an ungodly hour, mocking my attempts to anchor myself to reality. The patrons, once motionless, began to exhibit subtle movements, slight shifts in posture, a twitch of an eye, but their expressions remained unchanged, devoid of life or emotion. I decided to explore the bar, hoping to find some clue as to why this place existed outside the natural flow of time. The hallway leading to the back of the bar was narrow and dimly lit, lined with more shelves of dusty bottles and framed photographs that seemed to depict eras long past. Each picture told a story of happier times, now tainted by an underlying sense of despair. As I ventured deeper, I noticed that the temperature seemed to drop, my breath visible in the frigid air. The walls grew colder to the touch, and a palpable sense of sorrow weighed down upon me. It was then that I stumbled upon a small, locked door tucked away in a corner. Intrigued, I pressed my ear against it, hoping to hear something beyond. All I heard was the faint sound of sobbing, barely audible over the haunting melodies of the jazz music. My curiosity overcame my fear, and I searched the bar for a key. It was then that the bartender approached, his silent gaze piercing through me. Without a word, he handed me a small, ornate key, its design intricate and old-fashioned. My hands trembled as I inserted it into the lock, the door creaking open to reveal a cramped room bathed in an eerie, bluish light. Inside, the walls were lined with mirrors, each one reflecting distorted images of the room and myself. In the center stood a single chair, and as I stepped closer, the mirrors began to ripple like water, showing fleeting glimpses of otherworldly landscapes and shadowy figures moving just out of sight. The air buzzed with a strange energy, and I felt an overwhelming sense of being watched by unseen eyes. I turned to leave, but the door slammed shut, trapping me inside. Panic set in as I realized I was no longer alone. Figures began to emerge from the mirrors, ghostly apparitions dressed in attire from various decades, their eyes hollow and their movements jerky, as if puppeteered by invisible strings. One of them, a woman in a flapper dress from the 1920s, reached out a translucent hand towards me, her face contorted in eternal sorrow. Her voice echoed in my mind, a haunting whisper that sent chills down my spine, "Stay with us." I backed away, desperately trying to find a way out, but the room seemed to stretch infinitely, the mirrors closing in to trap me in their endless reflections. My heart raced as the apparitions began to close in, their silent pleas and mournful gazes intensifying my fear. Just as the apparitions were about to envelop me, a blinding light filled the room, forcing me to shield my eyes. When the light faded, I found myself back in the main bar area, the locked door nowhere to be seen. The bartender was standing before me, his expression unreadable. "I warned you," he finally spoke, his voice low and resonant. "Once you take a drink, you are bound to the bar for eternity." My mind raced to make sense of his words. I glanced at the glass in my hand, the cocktail was now empty, and a thin layer of blood had seeped into the ice cubes, staining the table. The realization hit me like a tidal wave. I had become a part of this place, just like the apparitions that roamed its halls. Desperation set in as I searched for any semblance of an exit, but the bar remained unchanged, the fog outside pressing against the windows as if trying to pull me back in. The bartender began to move towards me, his eyes glinting with an otherworldly light. "Welcome to the non-existent bar," he intoned. "Here, time stands still, and souls are forever entwined with the spirits that dwell within." I tried to argue, to find a loophole or a way to break free, but my words felt hollow, swallowed by the oppressive atmosphere. The patrons around me watched silently, their eyes devoid of emotion, serving as a constant reminder of my inescapable fate. As the hours, or was it days, passed, I settled into the grim reality of my situation. I became a fixture of the bar, observing the endless parade of lost souls who, like me, had fallen victim to its enigmatic allure. Each night brought new faces, drawn in by the promise of a good time, only to find themselves trapped in the same unending nightmare. The bar became my prison, a place where I existed in a perpetual loop, forever sipping cocktails that bound me to this spectral realm. I watched as others tried to resist, their struggles futile against the bar's unyielding grip. Some faded into nothingness, while others became part of the silent, ghostly congregation that roamed the halls. In time, I learned to navigate the space, finding small comforts in the routines of the bar. I documented the stories of those who had come before me, piecing together fragments of their lives and the circumstances that led them to this cursed establishment. Each tale was a cautionary whisper, a reminder of the dangers of succumbing to curiosity without heed. Months passed in what felt like mere weeks, and the foggy nights of Chicago continued their relentless cycle. The non-existent bar remained a haunting beacon, its presence a constant reminder of the fine line between reality and the supernatural. I became both observer and participant in this eternal night, my existence intertwined with the bar's dark legacy. One particularly dense foggy evening, a newcomer arrived, another soul seeking answers or perhaps simply a place to escape. Their presence stirred memories of my own descent into this haunted realm. I approached them cautiously, my voice a mere whisper in the heavy air. "Welcome to the non-existent bar," I said, echoing the bartender's ominous greeting. "Be careful what you seek here." Their eyes met mine, filled with a mix of hope and fear. "I heard the stories," they replied, "but I didn't believe them until now." I nodded solemnly, understanding all too well the allure and the trap that lay within these walls. "Once you take a drink, you're bound to stay. This place feeds on curiosity, trapping those who seek the unknown." They hesitated, glancing around at the silent patrons and the flickering lights that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. "Is there any way out?" they asked, desperation lacing their words. I sighed, a heavy weight settling on my shoulders. No one has found a way out since the bar appeared. Some say it's a gateway to another dimension, others believe it's a purgatory for lost souls. Whatever it is, it's best not to fall into its grasp. As I spoke, the bartender approached, his presence commanding yet indifferent. "Another soul joins our ranks," he stated simply, his voice devoid of emotion. "Remember, time here is an illusion. Embrace your fate, and perhaps find peace in the eternal night." The newcomer looked back and forth between me and the bartender, their resolve crumbling under the weight of their predicament. With a resigned sigh, they accepted the drink I offered, the same cursed cocktail that had bound me to this place. As the liquid touched their lips, I watched as their form began to shimmer and fade, their essence merging with the spectral crowd that now surrounded me. The cycle continued, each new arrival adding to the bar's haunted tapestry, forever entwined in its dark embrace. In the depths of my entrapment, I found solace in documenting our stories, hoping that one day, someone might uncover the truth behind the non-existent bar. Perhaps our collective memories would serve as a warning, a beacon to those who dared to seek the unknown. Until then, I remained a silent sentinel in this eternal night, forever bound by the very curiosity that had led me here. Story number 2. I stood silently by the window of my small apartment in the suburbs of Baltimore, watching the flickering streetlights cast shifting shadows across the quiet streets. It was the first night after breaking up with Anna, the woman I had been dating for 2.5 years. Even though I knew ending things was the best decision for both of us, the reality of it still weighed heavily on me. Everything happened so quickly. The heartfelt conversations, the shared laughter over games of pool at our favorite bar, all dissolved in a moment of silent understanding. I kept telling myself that this was for the best, but the emptiness lingered, filling the corners of my heart with a hollow ache. To escape the loneliness and regain some semblance of normalcy, I decided to visit the Blue Q, a small, quiet pool hall where Anna and I had spent countless weekends. The bar was located on Main Street, its dim blue neon sign casting a melancholic glow over the entrance. As I walked in, the familiar scent of cold beer and the sound of pool balls clacking together greeted me, making the place feel both comforting and oddly eerie. I chose a secluded corner, my eyes locking onto an old pool table that had seen better days. Memories of Anna's infectious laughter and our friendly competition resurfaced, each one a bittersweet reminder of what we had lost. Now, only echoes of those moments and a pervasive sense of emptiness remained. I ordered a beer and sat down, attempting to immerse myself in the soft music emanating from the speakers in the corner. Everything seemed normal, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and promised myself I would stay strong and move past this difficult phase. But moments later, a chill ran down my spine. A dark figure slowly approached my pool table. I opened my eyes to see a man standing there, his gaze deep and unsettling, a cryptic smile playing on his lips. A cold draft swept through the room, causing me to shiver uncontrollably. "Play a game with me," he said, his voice deep and commanding. My heart raced, torn between the desire to escape my sorrow and the unsettling intuition that something was terribly wrong. Despite the unease, I found myself unable to refuse his invitation. From that moment on, I knew everything was about to change in ways I couldn't imagine. Accepting the stranger's invitation left me with a mix of excitement and dread. He sat across from me, his eyes never leaving my movements. The bar remained quiet, the only sounds being the clinking of pool balls and soft conversations in the background. "You play quite well," he remarked, his tone both complimentary and mysterious. "I admire people with your skills." I managed a hesitant smile, trying to steady my nerves. "Thanks. You're not bad yourself." He nodded appreciatively before setting up the pool balls with precision and strength, each shot he took more impressive than the last. Our game commenced, each ball sinking into the pockets with a steady rhythm. Every time he scored, his eyes held a strange intensity that made me uneasy. "Do you believe in destiny?" he suddenly asked, catching me off guard. "I'm not sure." "Why do you ask?" I replied, attempting to mask my anxiety. "Sometimes, encounters like this aren't mere coincidences. There are forces at play beyond our understanding." His smile didn't reach his eyes, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. Before long, I began to sense something was amiss. The lights in the pool hall dimmed gradually, and the air grew colder. I glanced around to see other patrons leaving just the two of us in the now eerie silence. "Do you want to keep playing?" he asked, his voice maintaining a calm facade that belied the tension I felt. I nodded, despite the urge to decline. Recent events had made me feel vulnerable, yet the loneliness and desire for connection pushed me to continue. We played on, but each shot felt laden with an inexplicable tension, as if unseen eyes were silently watching our every move. Suddenly, the lights went out completely, plunging us into complete darkness. My own breathing sounded loud in my ears, and I felt a wave of fear wash over me. Before I could react, a noise echoed from behind us, a window being forcefully opened by the wind. I turned my head to see the man's shadowy figure standing there, his eyes now cold and menacing. "Don't worry," he said, his voice steady but filled with authority. "Everything will become clear." Before I could respond, he vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone with my racing thoughts. The lights flickered back on, but there was no sign of him. My heart pounded as an unexplainable chill settled over me. As I prepared to leave, I noticed the air quality notification tag I had seen earlier lying on the pool table. It shimmered under the blue neon light, a stark reminder of our strange encounter. Picking it up, panic surged through me. The tag displayed a code and my current address. How could a stranger possibly know that? Determined to escape whatever this was, I hurried out of the bar. A cold gust hit me as I stepped into the deserted street, the only sounds my hurried footsteps and the distant hum of the city. My mind raced with questions, but answers eluded me. I tried calling friends, but my phone had no signal. Recalling his words about destiny, I felt a mysterious connection between us. Glancing back towards the pool hall, everything seemed unchanged, as if nothing had happened. Yet deep down, I knew our encounter was just the beginning, and more mysterious events awaited me. Driving home that night, my anxiety only intensified. Every flicker of the streetlights made me look over my shoulder, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious man, but the roads remained empty. Finally reaching my house, I exhaled a sigh of relief, quickly unlocking the door and securing my apartment. But peace was short-lived. As I was about to get into bed, my phone buzzed with an unexpected message from an unknown number. "You can't run, Kevin. Everything will return to how it was." My pulse quickened. I didn't recognize the number, and the message felt like a dire warning. I tried calling back, but no one answered. The message lingered in my mind, a haunting reminder that something was very wrong. I decided to inspect my apartment for any signs of intrusion. As I checked each room, I found nothing out of place, except for the air quality tag, now folded and taped tightly into the corner of my wardrobe. Picking it up again, panic surged within me. The tag still displayed the same code and the mysterious address, 123 Elm Street. Realizing I needed answers, I delved into researching the address. To my surprise, 123 Elm Street was an old, nearly abandoned neighborhood known for its dilapidated houses and eerie reputation. Determined yet terrified, I knew I had to uncover the truth behind the tag and the stranger's intentions. The next morning, my unease lingered as I prepared for the day. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that every shadow held a hidden threat. I decided to take a day off work, hoping to find some clarity. My job at the rooftop bar was stable, but recently I had been feeling disconnected and troubled by the events of the past few days. As evening approached, I made my way back to the Blue Q, the pool hall now seeming even more ominous in the fading light. Armed with determination, I planned to visit 123 Elm Street and confront whatever darkness awaited me there. Standing in front of the old house at 123 Elm Street, my heart pounded in my chest. The house loomed before me, its windows shattered and the paint peeling away. A sense of foreboding washed over me as I approached the decaying structure, the silence around me amplifying my fear. Following the instructions on the air quality tag, I located a hidden back entrance. A cold breeze blew through the cracked door, making it creak ominously as I pushed it open. Inside, the air was thick with the musty scent of mold and decay. My flashlight beam danced across the walls, revealing old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs. I ventured deeper into the house, guided by the faint outline of footprints leading to the basement. As I descended the creaky stairs, the temperature dropped, and an unsettling stillness enveloped me. Reaching the basement, I saw a large, antique door at the far end, intricately carved with symbols that sent shivers down my spine. Determined to uncover the mystery, I approached the door and tried the handle, but it was locked tight. Frustration and fear gnawed at me as I fumbled with the lock, finally managing to open it with a loud snap. The room beyond was dimly lit, filled with old books, strange artifacts, and a peculiar machine that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Suddenly, the mysterious man from the pool hall appeared beside me, his presence as chilling as before. "You shouldn't have come here," he warned, his voice carrying an edge of menace. "This place holds secrets that are not meant to be uncovered." Before I could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows, Lily, the young woman who had helped me before. "Don't listen to him, Kevin," she urged, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to fix this." Confusion and relief battled within me as I looked between the two men. "Lily? How do you know me?" I asked, my voice trembling. Lily stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "I've been tracking these disturbances for a while. There's a dark force at play here, and you're the key to stopping it." The mysterious man scoffed, his expression darkening. "You think you can help him? This is beyond your understanding." Ignoring his threats, Lily grabbed my arm and pulled me towards the machine. "We need to deactivate it before it's too late," she insisted. "The air quality tag is part of a device that opens a portal between our world and the spirit realm. If it remains active, the balance will never be restored." As Lily and I examined the machine, I realized the gravity of the situation. The device was a relic from an old ritual designed to harness and control supernatural energies. Something had gone wrong, causing the portal to destabilize and unleash restless spirits into our world. Working together, we began to dismantle the device, but the process triggered a surge of dark energy. The room shook violently, and ghostly apparitions materialized around us, their mournful wails filling the air. The mysterious man lunged at us, determined to protect the device and the chaos it had unleashed. A fierce struggle ensued, with Lily and I fighting to regain control. Drawing on a newfound strength, we managed to disable the machine, causing the portal to close and the spirits to dissipate into the ether. The mysterious man watched in disbelief as his power waned, finally succumbing to the force of our combined will. Breathing heavily, Lily turned to me with a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. "We did it. The portal is sealed, and the spirits are at peace." I nodded, still shaken by the ordeal. "Thank you, Lily. I don't know what I would have done without you." She smiled softly, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. We make a good team. But remember, this isn't the end. There are always more mysteries to uncover and more darkness to face. As we left the old house, the weight of what we had accomplished settled over me. The world seemed a little safer, but I couldn't help but feel that our journey was far from over. The air quality tag lay in my hand, a constant reminder of the supernatural forces we had confronted and the challenges that still awaited us. We returned to the Blue Q that night, the pool hall now feeling both familiar and strangely different. The atmosphere was heavy with the remnants of the battle we had just endured. The machine had been dismantled, and the once eerie presence had been replaced by a sense of calm, though the air still held an unsettling tension. Lily and I stood before the ancient device, the parts we had collected now scattered around us. We need to make sure nothing else can disrupt the balance, she said, her voice steady but filled with concern. This device was just one part of a larger network of portals. There are others out there, waiting to be discovered. I looked around, taking in the quiet pool hall that had become the epicenter of our supernatural confrontation. What's next for us? Lily handed me the air quality tag, now clearly indicating another location. We follow the trail. Each tag leads to a different site where a portal has been activated. We need to find and secure them before more spirits are unleashed. As we prepared to leave, I noticed a new tag lying on the pool table. This one was freshly placed, glowing faintly under the neon lights. It seemed to beckon me, a silent invitation to continue our quest. Determined, I tucked the tag into my pocket, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Days turned into weeks as Lily and I traveled across the city, each new location presenting its own set of challenges and horrors. From abandoned factories to forgotten cemeteries, we faced restless spirits, ancient curses, and dark rituals that threatened to tear apart the fabric of reality. Each victory brought us closer together, our bond strengthening as we navigated the shadows that sought to consume us. One night, after successfully closing a portal in an old church, we returned to the Blue Q to find it in an unusually quiet state. The usual patrons were gone, and an unsettling silence hung in the air. As we approached the pool table, I felt a chill run down my spine. Another tag lay before us, its presence more ominous than the others. "This is it," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The final portal. If we don't close this, the entire city will be overrun by darkness." I nodded, steeling myself for the confrontation ahead. "Let's finish this." We followed the tag to an old mansion on the outskirts of town, its grandeur now overshadowed by decay and neglect. The mansion's dark history was infamous, known for its tragic events and rumored hauntings. As we approached the entrance, the air grew thick with malevolent energy, and the sky above turned a deep, foreboding gray. Inside, the mansion was a labyrinth of grand halls and shadowed corridors, each step echoing with the whispers of the past. We navigated through the eerie silence, guided by the tag's coordinates leading us to the heart of the darkness, the grand ballroom where the final portal awaited. The ballroom was a scene from a bygone era, with ornate chandeliers and antique furniture covered in dust. At the center stood the device, pulsating with dark energy. As we moved closer, the temperature plummeted, and the room seemed to warp around us. Suddenly, the mysterious man reappeared, his presence more powerful and sinister than ever. "You think you can stop the inevitable," he snarled, his eyes burning with dark intent. "The portals are the key to our existence. Without them, the spirits would lose their purpose." Lily stepped forward, her resolve unwavering. "You're wrong. These portals bring nothing but suffering and chaos. We're here to end this." A fierce battle erupted, the air crackling with supernatural energy as we fought against the dark forces attempting to protect the portal. Drawing upon every ounce of strength and courage, Lily and I worked in tandem, dismantling the device piece by piece. The room trembled with the force of our struggle, and spirits swirled around us, their wails intensifying the chaos. Finally, with one last push, we severed the connection, causing the portal to collapse in a burst of blinding light. The dark energy dissipated, and a profound silence settled over the mansion. The spirits, now free from their bondage, faded away, leaving behind a sense of peace and closure. Exhausted but triumphant, Lily and I stood amidst the remnants of the final battle. "It's over," she said, her voice filled with relief. I nodded, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment and freedom. We did it. The city is safe now. As we left the mansion, the sky began to clear, the first rays of dawn breaking through the darkness. The weight of the supernatural battles lifted, and a newfound sense of hope filled my heart. We returned to the Blue Cube, the pool hall now a symbol of our journey and the battles we had fought. But as we settled back into our routine, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. One evening, as the bar began to fill with familiar faces, I noticed a new air quality tag lying on the pool table, this one different from the rest, its symbols more intricate and mysterious. Lily looked at me, her expression serious. Looks like our work isn't completely done. There are always new challenges, new threats lurking in the shadows. I picked up the tag, feeling a sense of déjà vu mixed with anticipation. I guess the journey continues. She nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. As long as there are portals, we'll be there to close them. Together. With that, we embarked on the next chapter of our mission, ready to face whatever darkness awaited us. The air quality tags were more than just warnings, they were guides to a world of mysteries and dangers that we were now prepared to confront. As long as we stood together, I felt confident that we could overcome any obstacle and protect our city from the unseen forces that threatened it. Story number 3. The Cursed Mirror. The small town of Ravenswood, nestled deep in the heart of the American South, held more secrets than the towering oak trees that lined its streets. As I drove through its quiet lanes, the setting sun cast long shadows that danced eerily on the old brick buildings. Among them stood Shadow's Edge, a quaint bar with a history as dark as the nights it often endured. Shadow's Edge wasn't always a bar. In the late 1800s, it served as Ravenswood's funeral home, a place where grieving families laid their loved ones to rest. The building had witnessed countless farewells, the air thick with sorrow and the lingering scent of lilies. When the funeral home closed its doors, the space was repurposed into a bar, but some things never change. The most prominent relic from its past was a large, ornate mirror hanging behind the bar counter. Its wooden frame was intricately carved with designs that hinted at a bygone era, each detail meticulously crafted, yet worn by time. Local legends whispered about the mirror's sinister past. It was said that during its time as a funeral home, the mirror had been a witness to the final moments of hundreds of deceased souls. Each reflection held not just the image of the living but also the restless spirits of those who had passed on. Every full moon night, the townsfolk claimed they could hear faint whispers emanating from the mirror, voices from the beyond trying to communicate their unfinished business. One story that particularly sent chills down the spines of Ravenswood residents was about those who stared into the mirror for too long. They said if you gazed into it with enough intent, you'd see another version of yourself, a reflection that smiled while your real face remained stoic, or worse, bore a sinister grin that you didn't possess. This eerie phenomenon kept many away from the mirror, but curiosity often got the better of the brave or the foolish. I had heard these stories growing up, but like many, I dismissed them as mere folklore. That was until I returned to Ravenswood after several years away, drawn back by the mysterious disappearance of my childhood friend, Emily. She had been a regular at Shadow's Edge, always fascinated by the mirror. Her last night out had been during a torrential downpour, and she vanished without a trace after an unusually long stare into the glass. Determined to uncover the truth behind Emily's disappearance, I decided to spend a night at Shadow's Edge. I needed answers, and if the mirror was indeed the key, I was ready to face whatever lay within its depths. Shadow's Edge was a cozy establishment, with warm lighting and the hum of quiet conversations. The decor blended the old with the new, giving it a timeless feel. The mirror hung prominently behind the bar, its presence commanding attention despite the countless other elements vying for notice. As I settled into a corner booth, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The air was thick with the scent of aged whiskey and faint traces of something floral, perhaps remnants from its funeral home days. The bartender, a middle-aged man named Jack, greeted me with a nod. His eyes, a deep shade of blue, held a weariness that spoke of too many restless nights. I decided to observe the mirror first. It was larger than life, stretching from the floor to the ceiling, its reflection pristine despite the dim lighting. The carvings on the frame seemed to come alive in the flickering candlelight, shadows playing across the intricate designs. I could almost imagine the hands that had crafted it, pouring their souls into each detail. As the night progressed, subtle anomalies began to unfold. Emily had mentioned to me that regular patrons had started experiencing odd occurrences. The first incident involved a young woman named Sarah, who had become a frequent visitor. One rainy night, Sarah had stood before the mirror for what seemed like an eternity, her eyes fixed on her reflection. When she finally tore herself away, she was gone, leaving behind only the echo of her laughter and a lingering chill in the air. Then there was the case of Mr. Thompson, an elderly gentleman with a penchant for classic suits. Jack noticed him more often, always dressed impeccably in a vintage vest and tie. But it wasn't just his attire that set him apart, his presence was ghostly, almost translucent. He would appear at the bar, sit silently, and disappear moments later, leaving Jack with a deep sense of unease. As the night wore on, I began to feel the temperature drop whenever I approached the mirror. My breath became visible, and an inexplicable tension settled over me. I could hear faint whispers, indistinct and muffled, as if voices were trying to break through a thick barrier. I tried to shake off the feeling, attributing it to the haunting stories and my own overactive imagination. But the signs kept piling up. The first was a series of unexplained chills that swept over me whenever I glanced at the mirror. It was as if the glass held an unseen force, pulling me in with every gaze. The second was the appearance of fleeting shadows, dark silhouettes that moved just beyond the corner of my eye, vanishing when I turned to look directly. One particularly unsettling moment occurred when I noticed a handprint smeared across the mirror's surface. It was as if someone had pressed their hand against the glass from the inside, leaving behind a smudged mark that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Jack was the first to notice it, a look of concern etching across his face. "That's not supposed to be there," he muttered, wiping the mirror clean with a cloth. But the mark reappeared moments later, even more pronounced and dark. The staff began to feel increasingly uneasy, the once lively atmosphere now tinged with fear. Customers avoided the mirror, and conversations about it grew louder and more frantic. One night, as a heavy storm raged outside, I decided it was time to confront the mirror head-on. I needed to understand what it was and how it was connected to Emily's disappearance. The air was thick with tension as I approached the bar, my reflection staring back at me with an unsettling calm. I took a deep breath, mustering the courage to look into the glass. It was a night unlike any other in Ravenswood. The sky was an inky black, with rain pounding against the windows in relentless sheets. The streets were deserted, the usual hum of the town silenced by the storm's fury. Inside Shadow's Edge, the atmosphere was heavy, every patron huddled in their corners, seeking refuge from the tempest outside. Jack had closed the doors early that night, insisting that the storm was too dangerous. Only a handful of us remained, the silence between us growing thicker with each passing minute. As I stood before the mirror, the flickering candlelight casting wavering shadows across its surface, I felt an inexplicable urge to peer deeper into its depths. Taking a seat at the bar, I ordered a drink, hoping to steady my nerves. The bartender, ever silent, slid a glass of whiskey towards me. The amber liquid glimmered ominously in the dim light, and I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more than just a drink. It felt like an invitation, a key to unlocking the mirror's dark secrets. I raised the glass to my lips, the smooth warmth of the whiskey a stark contrast to the chill that had settled over me. As the liquid touched my tongue, a surge of dizziness washed over me, and the room seemed to tilt on its axis. I leaned back, trying to regain my balance, when I noticed something horrifying. My reflection in the mirror was no longer mirroring my actions. My real self remained still, but the reflection behind me began to move independently. It smiled, a slow, sinister grin that sent shivers down my spine. I reached out to touch the glass, my fingers meeting the cool surface, but my reflection's hand pressed against the other side as if it had a life of its own. Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. "Stay with us," they urged, voices layered upon one another, creating a cacophony of despair. My heart pounded in my chest as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. The reflection began to speak, its voice a haunting echo that seemed to reverberate through my very soul. "Help us," it whispered, the words dripping with sorrow and fear. "Join us." I tried to pull away, to break free from the hypnotic pull of the mirror, but my body refused to obey. The reflection reached out, its hand pressing closer to the glass, and I felt an invisible force tugging at my mind, pulling me towards the other side. Panic set in as I realized that the mirror was more than just a relic of the past. It was a portal to something dark and malevolent. The temperature in the bar plummeted, and I could see my breath forming in thick, icy clouds. The candle flames flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the walls. The whispers became a chorus of tormented souls, their voices intertwining in a sorrowful lament. "Look into the mirror," the reflection commanded, its eyes gleaming with an unnatural light. "See the truth." Desperation clawed at me as I struggled to tear my gaze away, but the mirror held me captive. I could feel the spirits from the funeral home, the restless souls that had lingered long after their final farewells, reaching out to me through the glass. Their anguish was palpable, their pain seeping into my very being. In a last-ditch effort to escape, I swung my arm at the mirror, shattering the illusion for a moment. The glass cracked, sending spiderweb patterns across its surface, and the whispers halted abruptly. I gasped, stumbling back, my heart racing as I struggled to catch my breath. But the momentary respite was short-lived. The mirror began to rumble, the cracks widening as if something was trying to break free. The reflection no longer resembled me, morphing into a grotesque visage of suffering and rage. The spirits' torment intensified, their voices merging into a single, deafening roar. "Help us," they cried, the plea now a desperate scream. "Release us." The mirror's surface began to warp and distort, the barrier between our worlds weakening. I could feel an overwhelming sense of dread as the spirits reached out, their hands pressing against the glass, fingers clawing at me with an unyielding grip. The weight of their sorrow bore down on me, threatening to pull me into their eternal nightmare. In that moment of sheer terror, I realized that the mirror was not just a window to the past, but a conduit for the damned souls to escape their torment. They were trapped, just like Emily, and the mirror offered a way out, but at a horrific cost. Summoning every ounce of strength, I forced myself to look away, breaking the unholy connection. The mirror shuddered violently, the glass shattering into 1,000 pieces that rained down like icy daggers. The room erupted in chaos as the spirits let out a final, unified wail, their forms dissolving into nothingness. Panting and drenched in sweat, I sank to the floor, the remnants of the shattered mirror scattered around me. The storm outside began to abate, the rain slowing to a gentle drizzle. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by an eerie calm. Jack approached cautiously, his face pale and eyes wide with shock. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice trembling. I nodded weakly, still trying to process the nightmare I had just endured. "I think so," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "But we need to get rid of that mirror." The morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of Shadow's Edge, casting a warm glow over the once ominous bar. The storm had passed, leaving behind a sense of uneasy peace. I sat across from Jack, recounting the events of the previous night, my hands still trembling from the ordeal. "We need to remove the mirror," I insisted, my mind still reeling from the night's horrors. "It's too dangerous to keep it here." Jack nodded solemnly, his expression mirroring my own fear. "I agree. It's time we put this to rest." With the first light of dawn, we carefully dismantled the broken pieces of the mirror. Each shard seemed to hold a fragment of the torment that had been unleashed, and handling them felt like touching the remnants of countless sorrows. We wrapped the pieces in thick blankets and stored them in the back of the bar, away from prying eyes and curious minds. Despite our efforts, the legend of the cursed mirror lingered in Ravenswood. Word spread quickly, fueled by the mysterious disappearance of Emily and the strange occurrences at Shadow's Edge. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting nervously whenever the topic arose. Days turned into weeks, and Shadow's Edge began to regain its former vibrancy. Patrons returned, drawn by the bar's unique charm and the lingering allure of its haunted past. The mirror was locked away, hidden from view, but some nights, especially on full moons, the air around the bar seemed to grow heavy with unspoken fears. One evening, as I sat with Jack, reflecting on the events that had transpired, a familiar chill swept through the room. My eyes involuntarily glanced towards the storage area where the mirror was kept. The shadows seemed to dance unnaturally, and a faint whisper echoed through the bar. "Don't forget us." I felt a shiver run down my spine, my heart pounding in my chest. Jack followed my gaze, his expression tense. "Did you hear that?" Before I could respond, the door swung open, letting in a gust of cold wind that extinguished the candles and plunged the bar into darkness. The air grew thick with an oppressive energy, and the whispers returned, louder and more insistent this time. "We're still here." Panic surged through me as I realized that the mirror's curse had not been fully lifted. The spirits were still tethered to Shadow's edge, their souls yearning for release. I knew then that our ordeal was far from over, and the true extent of the mirror's malevolence was yet to be uncovered. Determined to protect the town and free the restless spirits, I vowed to delve deeper into the mirror's history. The answers lay buried in the annals of Ravenswood's past, and I was prepared to face whatever darkness awaited me. The mirror had taken much, but it had also ignited a resolve within me to bring peace to those trapped in its cursed reflections. As the night wore on, the whispers faded, replaced by an eerie silence. Jack and I exchanged a knowing glance, understanding that our journey had only just begun. The mirror may have been hidden, but its influence remained, a lingering shadow over Shadow's Edge and the town of Ravenswood. We stood together, ready to confront the darkness that had seeped into our lives, determined to uncover the truth and lay the spirits to rest once and for all. The cursed mirror had tested our courage, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond between us, united by the quest to end the haunting legacy of Shadow's Edge. Months passed since the night the mirror shattered, yet the shadow it cast over Ravenswood remained unyielding. Shadow's Edge continued to operate, but an unspoken tension lingered within its walls. The patrons sensed it too, the once cozy bar now holding an undercurrent of fear and uncertainty. Jack and I became local legends, the ones who had dared to face the cursed mirror and survived. Yet, the mystery of the spirit's true origin and their unending torment remained unresolved. The broken pieces of the mirror, stored away in a secure vault, continued to emit a faint, oppressive energy, as if waiting for someone to disturb them once more. One chilly autumn night, as the first snowflakes began to fall, I decided to revisit the storage area. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of duty, I felt compelled to ensure that the mirror remained contained. As I approached the vault, the air grew colder, and the whispers returned, more desperate and pleading. "Set us free." I hesitated, my hand hovering over the door. The spirits' cries echoed in my mind, their anguish impossible to ignore. Torn between my desire to protect the town and the empathy I felt for their suffering, I knew that simply hiding the mirror was not a permanent solution. Determined to find a way to release the trapped souls, I delved into Ravenswood's historical records, uncovering tales of betrayal and tragedy that had plagued the town for generations. It became clear that the mirror was more than just a cursed object. It was a conduit for unresolved grievances and broken promises from the past. One evening, with Jack by my side, we performed a ritual of cleansing, hoping to sever the mirror's dark ties to the spiritual realm. The process was arduous, filled with moments of intense fear and overwhelming pressure, but our combined resolve saw us through. As we chanted the final incantation, the mirror's fragments began to glow, the oppressive energy dissipating as the spirits found their peace. The following morning, Ravenswood awoke to a town free from the lingering shadows of Shadow's Edge. The bar regained its warmth and welcoming ambience, the mirror's curse finally lifted. The spirits had been set free, their restless souls no longer bound to the cursed reflections. As I stood before the now dormant mirror, I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Emily was finally at peace, and so were the countless others who had been trapped by their own curiosities. Shadow's Edge thrived once more, a place where stories were shared without fear of unseen horrors. Yet, deep within the recesses of Ravenswood, the legend of the cursed mirror lived on, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead. The mirror's tale became a cautionary story, passed down through generations, warning against the dangers of unchecked curiosity and the unresolved pains of the past. In the end, the mirror had taught me the importance of facing the darkness, both within and around us. It showed that even the most haunting of mysteries could be unraveled with courage, empathy, and a steadfast determination to bring light to the shadows. Ravenswood moved forward, its history enriched by the bravery of those who dared to confront the unknown, ensuring that the cursed mirror remained a story of triumph over terror, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Story number 4. Whispers from Bobby Mackey's. I've always been drawn to places steeped in history and mystery, those spots where the past lingers in the shadows, whispering secrets to anyone willing to listen. My fascination with the supernatural led me to numerous haunted locales, but none intrigued me quite like Bobby Mackey's Music World in Wilder, Kentucky. Nestled in the heart of a small southern town, Bobby Mackey's isn't just a popular bar and nightclub. It's a place where the vibrant energy of live music intertwines with an undercurrent of eerie phenomena that have captivated locals and intrigued outsiders for decades. Bobby Mackey's Music World stands where once a humble slaughterhouse operated in the late 19th century. The building's robust, industrial architecture belied its grim past. During its years as a slaughterhouse, countless animals met their end within its cold, unfeeling walls, and blood once seeped into deep pits beneath the ground. The air was thick with the metallic scent of iron and the mournful cries of animals, a stark contrast to the lively atmosphere it exudes today. After the slaughterhouse closed, the building was repurposed into Bobby Mackey's Music World. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous, or so it seemed. The facade retained its sturdy exterior, but the interior was revamped into a lively nightclub adorned with neon lights, stages for live performances, and an expansive bar area. However, the past never truly fades, and Bobby Mackey's retained remnants of its dark history, most notably a large, ornate mirror hanging behind the bar. The mirror's intricate wooden frame is a testament to craftsmanship long forgotten, its surface reflecting not just the vibrant nightlife but also something far more sinister. Legends abound among the patrons and staff about the mirror's connection to the supernatural. It's said that the mirror has been the source of numerous unexplained phenomena, whispers in the night, fleeting shadows, and apparitions that seem to linger just beyond the edge of perception. As someone who thrives on uncovering the truth behind such legends, I couldn't resist the allure of Bobby Mackey's. Stories of hauntings and paranormal activities drew me in, and my investigative instincts were piqued by the tragic tales surrounding the bar's history. Determined to experience these phenomena firsthand and perhaps uncover the truth behind the mirror's dark legacy, I decided to spend an evening at Bobby Mackey's, armed with nothing but my notebook, a camera, and an open mind. The night I chose to visit Bobby Mackey's was anything but ordinary. The air was thick with anticipation as the crowd surged into the nightclub, the pulsating beats of country and rock music reverberating through the walls. The vibrant lights cast dynamic patterns across the dance floor, and the lively chatter of patrons filled the space with an infectious energy. Yet, amidst the revelry, an undercurrent of unease seemed to pervade the atmosphere, a subtle hint that all was not as it appeared. I settled into a dimly lit corner near the mirror, my eyes constantly drawn to its ornate frame. The mirror was larger than life, its surface seemingly flawless, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that it held secrets far darker than the lively scenes it reflected. As the night progressed, I began to notice subtle anomalies, glimpses of movement just beyond the corner of my eye, soft whispers that seemed to emanate from the mirror itself, and fleeting shadows that danced along its edges. Two spirits, in particular, stood out amidst the whispers and shadows, Johanna and Alonzo Walling. Johanna, a tragic love story. Johanna was the daughter of the original owner of the slaughterhouse, a beautiful young woman with dreams of love and happiness. Her story was one of deep tragedy and unfulfilled desires. Johanna had fallen in love with a talented singer who performed regularly at Bobby Mackey's. Their love was passionate and genuine, but it was cut brutally short when her father discovered their relationship. In a fit of rage and unable to accept their union, he brutally killed her beloved right there in the slaughterhouse, the same place that would later become Bobby Mackey's. Devastated by the loss of her lover and unable to cope with her grief, Johanna spiraled into despair. One fateful night, overwhelmed by sorrow, she took her own life in the basement of the slaughterhouse-turned-bar. Since then, many patrons and staff have reported hearing her soft whispers or catching a fleeting glimpse of her in the mirror, her presence marked by the lingering scent of her favorite perfume. Alonzo Walling, the vengeful spirit. Alonzo Walling was a notorious criminal who met his end within the walls of Bobby Mackey's Music World. Convicted of multiple murders, Alonzo was executed for his heinous crimes, but his restless spirit refused to find peace. Legend has it that Alonzo cursed the establishment with his dying breath, vowing never to leave the place that held his darkest memories. His presence is often felt through inexplicable cold spots, the sound of footsteps echoing in empty rooms, and the sensation of being pushed or grabbed by an unseen force. Alonzo's most frequent manifestation is a shadowy figure clad in a vintage suit, his face twisted in eternal rage. He appears to those who linger too long near the mirror, his presence unsettling and his intent malevolent. As midnight approached, the atmosphere within Bobby Mackey's began to shift. The lively energy of the night took on a more sinister tone, and the once vibrant lights seemed to dim, casting longer shadows that danced ominously across the room. I felt a growing sense of dread, an inexplicable urge to leave, yet my curiosity kept me rooted to my seat. Suddenly, the music screeched to a halt, and the room fell into an eerie silence. The patrons, mid-dance and conversation, froze in place as if time had come to a standstill. The only sound was the faint dripping of water from somewhere deep within the building. The temperature plummeted, and my breath became visible in the cold air. Without warning, a voice echoed through the bar, its tone both pleading and desperate, "Help me." I turned towards the mirror, my heart pounding in my chest. There, reflected in the glass, was Johanna. Her ethereal form stood motionless, her eyes filled with sorrow, and her mouth moving silently as if trying to communicate a message I couldn't quite grasp. The whispers grew louder, intertwining with the haunting plea, creating a cacophony of anguish that resonated through the room. Before I could react, the mirror began to ripple, the surface distorting like liquid glass. Johanna's reflection smiled hollowly, a gesture that sent chills down my spine. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt an invisible force pulling me towards the mirror. My legs refused to obey, and I found myself inching closer, unable to resist the magnetic pull. As I approached the mirror, the image of Alonzo Walling materialized beside Johanna. His shadowy form exuded malice, his eyes burning with an unholy fire. Alonzo reached out, his spectral hand pressing against the glass as if trying to break through. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pulsating with an oppressive energy that made it difficult to breathe. Desperation clawed at my mind as I struggled to tear my gaze away, but the mirror held me captive. The whispers morphed into screams, the voices of the damned echoing through the room. "Stay with us," they demanded, their voices a blend of sorrow and rage. Suddenly, the mirror shattered with a resounding crash, sending shards of glass flying in all directions. The room erupted into chaos as the spirits unleashed their fury. Patrons panicked, scrambling to escape the sudden onslaught of paranormal activity. Alonzo's spirit surged forward, his form becoming more tangible and threatening, while Johanna floated gracefully towards me, her presence now overpowering. I felt a searing pain in my chest, as if invisible hands were gripping my heart, squeezing tightly. The last thing I saw before everything went black was Johanna's tear-streaked face and Alonzo's menacing glare, both reaching out to claim me as one of their own. When I awoke, I was lying on the cold, hard floor of Bobby Mackey's music world, the broken mirror pieces scattered around me. My head throbbed with pain, and my body felt weak, as if I had been dragged through a nightmare. The bar was empty, the remnants of the night's terror lingering in the air like a heavy fog. I struggled to my feet, my vision blurred, and my ears ringing from the cacophony of screams and whispers that had filled my mind. As I staggered towards the exit, I couldn't help but glance back at the shattered mirror. The glass was cracked, but still held its ominous presence, the remnants of Johanna and Alonzo's spirits fading into the darkness. The morning sun streamed through the large windows, casting a stark contrast to the night's horrors. I left Bobby Mackey's with a heavy heart and a mind racing with unanswered questions. The experience had left an indelible mark on me, a lingering sense of unease that I couldn't shake off. Days turned into weeks, and life gradually returned to normal. However, the legend of Bobby Mackey's music world only grew stronger. The stories of Johanna and Alonzo became more elaborate, shared among patrons and staff with a mix of fear and fascination. Despite the unsettling events I had witnessed, the bar continued to thrive, its dark history seemingly fueling its allure. People speculated that the blood-soaked past of the slaughterhouse had created a thin veil between the living and the dead, allowing restless spirits to roam freely within Bobby Mackey's walls. The presence of the mirror was believed to be a conduit for these spirits, a gateway through which they could interact with the living, albeit with malevolent intentions. Even after the incident, the mirror remained a focal point of mystery. Some patrons claimed that they could still hear Johanna's whispers or catch a faint scent of her perfume lingering in the air. Others spoke of Alonzo's shadowy figure appearing fleetingly in the mirror, a constant reminder of the vengeful spirit that roamed the establishment. The night I spent at Bobby Mackey's left me with more questions than answers. Who was Johanna, and what drove her to seek help through the mirror? What was Alonzo's true motive, and why was his spirit so restless? The shattered mirror was a stark symbol of the unresolved tensions between the past and the present, a relic that continued to hold the key to the bar's haunted legacy. As I reflect on that harrowing night, I realize that some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, their truths buried within the shadows of time. Bobby Mackey's music world stands as a testament to the enduring power of history and the supernatural, a place where the echoes of the past continue to shape the present in ways that are both fascinating and terrifying. Months have passed since that fateful night at Bobby Mackey's music world, yet the memories linger like a persistent shadow. The bar remains a beacon for music lovers and thrill-seekers alike, its doors welcoming a steady stream of patrons eager to experience its unique blend of live performances and eerie ambience. Despite the unsettling events, the establishment continues to thrive, its enigmatic charm drawing in crowds day and night. The stories of Johanna and Alonzo have become an integral part of the bar's lore, shared among visitors with a mix of reverence and fear. Some dismiss them as mere urban legends, while others swear by their authenticity, recounting personal experiences that align with the tales of the haunted mirror. The line between fact and fiction blurs within the walls of Bobby Mackey's, creating an atmosphere where the past and present coexist in a delicate balance. I often find myself passing by the bar, the memories of that night resurfacing with each glance at the glowing sign. The mirror, now repaired and restored to its place behind the bar, continues to be a silent witness to the unfolding dramas of the present, its surface reflecting not just the lively scenes, but also the lingering spirits of the past. Despite my attempts to move on, the experience at Bobby Mackey's has left an indelible mark on my psyche. The unresolved mysteries and the palpable presence of the supernatural have sparked a deeper curiosity within me, driving me to explore further into the unknown. I've become more determined to uncover the truths that lie hidden in the shadows, seeking to give voice to the restless spirits that inhabit places like Bobby Mackey's music world. Yet, as I delve deeper into the lore of haunted locales, I can't help but wonder if some mysteries are better left untouched. The stories of Johanna and Alonzo serve as a haunting reminder of the thin veil that separates our world from the next, a barrier that can be easily breached by those who dare to look too closely into the unknown. Bobby Mackey's music world remains a captivating enigma, a place where music and mystery intertwine to create an experience that is both exhilarating and unnerving. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there's no denying the allure of a place where the past refuses to stay buried and the echoes of lost souls continue to reverberate through the night. So, do you dare to step into Bobby Mackey's and experience the whispers of the past for yourself? Enjoy the music, revel in the nightlife, but remember that some places carry the weight of history in every corner, waiting for the next curious soul to uncover their dark secrets.